In 1926, Queen Mary sat down with one of the most extraordinary necklaces in the British royal collection. A diamond fishnet choker commissioned by Queen Alexandra herself, dripping with cabochon emerald and ruby drops that had come directly from Indian Maharajas. It was romantic. It was exotic. It was, in every sense, Alexandra. And Queen Mary had the coloured drops removed, every single one of them, replaced with diamonds. Some of those replacement stones are believed to have been cut from the Cullinan, the largest gem-quality diamond ever found. She then wore the altered piece with Alexandra's own Kokoshnik tiara, creating an ensemble so white, so blazing, so architecturally unified that you would never guess it had once held the warm colours of empire. Now, was that an act of erasure, or was it something more complicated? A queen rewriting the visual language of monarchy for a century that had no patience for sentiment? That question is what this video is about, because the contrast between Queen Alexandra and Queen Mary is not simply a matter of taste. It is a story about two women, two philosophies, two entirely different ideas of what it means to be a queen, and the jewels that sit at the centre of all of it. Two women at the hinge of an era. Let me tell you who these women were, because the jewellery only makes sense when you understand the people wearing it. Alexandra was born Princess Alexandra of Denmark in 1844. She married the future Edward VII in 1863, became Queen Consort in 1901, and was admired across Europe in a way that is genuinely difficult to convey now. She was warm. She was beautiful. She had a lightness about her that people found almost magnetic. And her jewellery reflected all of that, layers of pearls, diamond chokers, a shimmering, airy quality that perfectly matched the pale gowns and high collars of the Edwardian era she came to define. But here is something that most people don't know, or perhaps don't think about. Alexandra's most recognisable signature, those high, tight chokers hugging her throat, began as camouflage. Contemporary accounts and later medical historians note that she had a small neck scar, probably from childhood surgery. She used high lace collars and tight chokers to conceal it. And then something rather wonderful happened. Society women copied her. They copied her chokers. Some accounts even suggest they copied her slight limp caused by rheumatic fever. Her vulnerabilities became fashionable emblems. She turned what she was hiding into what defined her. I find that deeply moving, actually. There is something so human about it. Mary of Teck was a different creature entirely. Born in 1867, she married the future George V in 1893 and became Queen Consort in 1910. She was not celebrated for conventional beauty. She was celebrated for gravity, for seriousness, for dignity, for an almost scholarly approach to the business of being royal. Where Alexandra radiated charm, Mary projected solidity. Where Alexandra made you feel welcomed, Mary made you feel the weight of history. And her jewellery, it was armour, not metaphorically, almost literally. Photographs of Mary show rigid rows of diamonds rising from collarbone to chin, what some modern commentators have called a diamond turtleneck. Multiple rivières, chains, pendants, all worn simultaneously, creating a density that Alexandra never attempted and probably never wanted. Mary's jewellery did not soften her profile. It amplified her presence. It announced, without a single word, that this woman was not to be trifled with. She was also, and this is crucial to everything that follows, a collector and a curator. Hugh Roberts and other royal jewellery historians consistently describe her as someone who actively sought out pieces with historical or dynastic significance, retrieved jewels that had drifted into other branches of the family, and then integrated them into a coherent, personal collection. She didn't just wear jewellery, she managed it. She thought about it the way a museum director thinks about a permanent collection. Which brings us to what happened when Alexandra died in 1925. and left behind one of the most extraordinary accumulations of jewels in royal history. The Collier Resille. In 1904, Alexandra commissioned something from Cartier that I think deserves a moment of genuine appreciation before we talk about what happened to it. It was called a Collier Résille, a fishnet choker, a wide, flexible mesh of diamonds that hugged the neck like glittering fabric. But what made it extraordinary were the drops hanging from its lower edge, cabochon emeralds and rubies, detachable, warm with colour. And those coloured stones were not random purchases. They were reused gems from jewels given to Alexandra by Indian Maharajas, gifts that tied the choker directly to Britain's imperial relationships, to the subcontinent, to a whole world of colour and connection beyond the grey skies of England. Alexandra wore it in a striking joint portrait with her sister, Empress Maria Feodorovna of Russia. She wore it in a famous painting by François Flameng, alongside Queen Victoria's small diamond crown and the Koh-i-Noor, where those coloured pendants punctuate a sea of white diamonds like something alive. The overall effect is dramatic but fluid. It is a lace of diamonds, broken by exotic drops of imperial colour, worn by a queen whose public persona balanced softness with opulence. It is, in short, a conversation between white and colour, between England and India, between the formal and the personal. After Alexandra's death in 1925, the Collier Resille passed to Queen Mary. In 1926, just 1 year later, Mary had it altered. 2 major changes are documented. The ruby and emerald pendants were removed and replaced with diamond drops, and some of those replacement stones are believed to have been cut from the Cullinan diamond, integrating one of the most symbolically loaded imperial stones in existence into the piece. Mary was then photographed wearing this altered Collier Resille with Alexandra's own Kokoshnik tiara. The ensemble is almost blindingly white. Every trace of colour, every echo of India, every warm drop that Alexandra had chosen, was gone. Now, I want to be careful here because it would be easy to frame this as simple vandalism. But I don't think that's quite right. Mary was not careless, she was deliberate. What she did to the Collier Resille was a rewriting of jewellery language, colour and personal memory yielding to institutional whiteness and unified symbolism. Alexandra's version was romantic, sentimental, cosmopolitan, openly displaying the Indian origin of its stones. Mary's version was controlled, dynastic, monochrome, folding those same stones into a grand narrative of British imperial diamonds headed by the Cullinan. Different philosophies, same necklace, completely different meaning. The Indian necklace and the Gloucester emeralds. The Collier Resille was not the only piece that underwent transformation. Alongside it, Alexandra owned an Indian necklace made with emeralds received as gifts from Indian rulers. Like the collier, it combined imperial origin with Alexandra's love of elaborate neck adornment. It was, in its way, a document of the Raj, a physical record of the relationship between the British Crown and the princes of India. After Alexandra's death, this necklace too passed to Queen Mary. And Mary made a decision that tells us a great deal about how she thought. She broke it up. Rather than preserve it as a historic relic of Alexandra's reign, Mary dismantled the Indian necklace and used its emeralds to create a dramatic emerald and pearl demi-parure as a wedding gift for her daughter-in-law, Lady Alice Montague Douglas Scott, the future Duchess of Gloucester, who married Prince Henry in 1935. The resulting set included an emerald and pearl necklace, matching earrings, and additional elements incorporated into Gloucester family jewels. By doing this, Mary effectively disentangled those emeralds from Alexandra's romantic Edwardian context and reframed them within the more modern, streamlined aesthetics of the 1930s and the smaller Gloucester branch of the family. Was this ruthless, or was it practical? I genuinely find myself going back and forth on this. On one hand, Alexandra's Indian necklace was a piece of history, a tangible connection to the Raj, to the gifts of Maharajas, to a specific moment in the relationship between Britain and India. Breaking it up severed that connection permanently. On the other hand, Mary's instinct was that jewels should be worn, not stored. She believed in what you might call conservation through transformation. Rather than leave a piece to languish unworn, repurpose it into something that would have an active life. And there is something else worth noting. The decision about which heirlooms could be broken up rested with Mary. That is not a small thing. It is a statement about who controls the visual legacy of a dynasty. Mary positioned herself quite deliberately as editor-in-chief of Alexandra's collection, determining which aspects of Edwardian opulence would survive, in what form, and on whose body. The chokers, a study in contrast. I want to spend some time on chokers specifically because I think they are where the philosophical difference between these two women becomes most visible. Alexandra's chokers, as we've established, began as camouflage and became a signature. She owned numerous variations: diamond link chokers, pearl bands with diamond plaques, flexible collars combining pearls, diamonds, and colored gems. But whatever their specific form, they shared a quality. They followed the organic curves of the neck and shoulders. They were soft. They reinforced the impression of a woman who used jewelry to work with her body, not impose upon it. Mary also wore chokers, but she wore them differently. Consider her 11-row pearl choker, 11 tight rows of small pearls stacked densely from collarbone almost to chin, with 2 large, elaborate diamond clasps acting as both fastening and focal points. Mary wore this frequently as Princess of Wales. It was already more architectural than anything Alexandra favoured. And yet, after the First World War, even this was not enough for Mary. Her taste shifted toward almost exclusively diamond collars, rigid, gleaming barriers between her face and the world. Where Alexandra's chokers suggested vulnerability wrapped in beauty, Mary's read as a deliberate monument to status and endurance. Alexandra's jewelry worked with the body. Mary's jewelry almost imposed its own architecture on it. And then there is the emerald and diamond Art Deco choker, created by Garrard in 1921, using emeralds gifted from the ladies of India in 1911. This piece was designed in a strongly Art Deco style, alternating square emerald panels and diamond sections in a rigid modern band. Mary wore it high and tight on the neck, often with other necklaces underneath. It is hard, geometric, impossible to ignore. It replaced Alexandra's lace-like collars in the public imagination and in the royal rota, and it signals a shift that goes beyond fashion, from jewelry as personal camouflage to jewelry as declarative design. From Edwardian romance to deco modernity, with strong lines and block colour. That choker, incidentally, has a remarkable afterlife. Elizabeth II inherited it in 1953, but reportedly found the shortened style uncomfortable and passed it to Diana, Princess of Wales, as a wedding gift. Diana famously wore it as both necklace and improvised headband. When later worn by Diana and then Catherine, the same choker carries traces of both women's styles, but its underlying language remains Mary's, bold, frontal, impossible to ignore. The Kokoshnik, where their tastes finally met. There is one piece in this story where the contrast between Alexandra and Mary softens, and I think it is worth pausing on because it complicates the narrative in an interesting way. The diamond Kokoshnik tiara was presented to Alexandra in 1888 by a committee of aristocratic ladies for her silver wedding anniversary. She personally requested a design inspired by the Russian Kokoshnik tiaras worn by her sister, Empress Maria Feodorovna. Made by Garrard, it is a solid wall of diamond bars, each tip set with a brilliant, creating a blazing, uniform fringe. Alexandra wore it frequently, and it became closely associated with her as Princess of Wales and then Queen. After Alexandra's death, the Kokoshnik passed to Queen Mary, and here is what is interesting. Mary did not fundamentally alter it. Unlike the Collier Résille, unlike the Indian necklace, the Kokoshnik survived intact. Why? I think the answer is that the Kokoshnik already spoke Mary's language. It is strong lines. It is uniform diamonds. It is architectural. Alexandra had chosen it for sentimental reasons, to honor her sister, to connect herself to Russia, to the family she had left behind when she came to England as a young bride. But the tiara's form happened to align perfectly with Mary's aesthetic preferences. What changed was the styling. Alexandra wore the Kokoshnik with softer, layered necklaces and gowns adorned with sewn-on jewels. She literally had precious gems stitched into her dresses, diamonds and pearls scattered across sleeves and bodices, turning her entire figure into a sparkling surface. Mary paired the same tiara with dense stacks of diamond rivières and rigid chokers, emphasizing its architectural qualities, stripping away the softness that Alexandra had built around it. Same tiara. Completely different woman. This is one of the few instances where Alexandra's taste anticipated Mary's, and it may be precisely why Mary left it alone. She didn't need to change it. It already said what she wanted to say. What it all means. So why did Queen Mary take apart Queen Alexandra's jewels? The simple answer is taste, but I don't think taste is really the point. Alexandra operated in the twilight of Victorian and the dawn of Edwardian society, when royalty still leaned heavily on personal charm and theatrical display. Her jewels emphasized romance, sentiment, and fashion leadership. She cherished gifts that recalled family ties. The Dagmar necklace from Denmark, the Kokoshnik inspired by her Russian sister's jewels, and wore them in ways that emphasized personal meaning as much as status. She was, in the deepest sense, a romantic collector of memories. Mary presided over a monarchy shaken by war, revolution, and the fall of cousin dynasties. She had watched the Romanovs fall. She had watched European royalty dissolve. She understood, perhaps more clearly than anyone around her, that the British monarchy needed to project something different from charm and sentiment. It needed to project permanence, stability, the weight of an institution that would outlast any individual. Her jewelry choices reflect that understanding. The near-exclusive preference for white diamonds, which read clearly in black and white photography and newsreel film. The insistence on symmetry and balance. The willingness to take apart inherited pieces and recombine stones into new designs that better suited the visual demands of early 20th century media. Mary was not just wearing jewelry, she was managing a brand, and she was doing it with extraordinary intentionality. Alexandra did not leave a formal will, but she did leave written instructions, a kind of jewel map, listing which pieces should go to which family members. Mary, as daughter-in-law and Queen Dowager, played a central role in implementing that map. She honored Alexandra's allocations while also quietly modifying pieces, breaking them up, reframing them. She approached the task with both respect and curatorial zeal. That combination, respect and ruthlessness, is, I think, what makes Mary so fascinating. She was not trying to erase Alexandra. She was trying to translate her, to take the emotional, sentimental, cosmopolitan world that Alexandra had built in jewels and render it into something that could survive the 20th century. Whether she was right to do so is a question I genuinely cannot answer. Something was lost when those ruby and emerald drops were removed from the Collier Resille. A conversation was ended. A connection to India, to Alexandra's personal history, to the warm, layered world of Edwardian opulence, gone, replaced by the cold clarity of Cullinan diamonds. But something was also preserved. The stones themselves survived. The Kokoshnik survived. The emeralds from Alexandra's Indian necklace went on to be worn by the Duchess of Gloucester and then by her descendants. The Art Deco choker went on to be worn by Diana and then by Catherine. These pieces are still alive, still in use, still telling stories, even if they are not quite the stories Alexandra intended. Here is what I keep coming back to. Alexandra turned her vulnerabilities into fashion. Mary turned sentiment into institution. And the jewels that passed between them carry both women's fingerprints, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes in direct tension. The Collier Resille, stripped of its colour, still blazes. The Kokoshnik, unchanged, still crowns royal heads. The emeralds from an Indian necklace still catch the light at Gloucester family events. 2 queens, 1 collection. And a question that I think is worth sitting with. When we inherit something precious, do we have the right to change it? Or does the act of changing it become, in its own way, a form of keeping it alive? I would genuinely love to know what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this as absorbing as I did, a like means more than you might think for a channel like this. It helps these stories reach the people who care about them most. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring